All right, so now that the cap is cut back, I think I'm going to install this hatch. I've got it laying on the shelf, lid's over there, but I got this whole front deck area, and well, I won't be able to access that easily, and it's not a lot, but I think it'll make a great little, anchor storage, just something. And it's just wasted space. Got the hatch, let's put it in. So anyways, first thing, got a rough measurement of where it's going to be, measured at equal amounts from here to here and side to side. So got that, kind of rough trace that. I'm going to get the square out, make those lines perfectly even, overcut them, because I got a 4-inch flange here, so I'm going to overcut that by about a 1/2 inch just so I make sure it sits in there flush. And then I'll start grinding out around the edge for a taper. We'll bed it in. So first off, don't mind how messy this deck is, because it's covered in resin and crap. But anyways, so measured the exact, I'm going 10 inches. This hole roughly is 12 by 16. So we'll start it at the 10-inch point. So I ran this across along both those lines. It comes out to 54 inches, so half of that is 27, so that's my center point. So now I've got my vertical center, my horizontal center, or horizontal vertical, XYs, whatever you want to call them, and I can measure out the rest of it from there so that it is nice and centered on this front, because the last thing you want is it to be over that way or cockeyed one way or another, because the micrometer will pick it up as soon as you stand back and take a look. Okay, so we got the rough cut out, measured and marked. I went a 1/2 inch more on each side and then 1 inch more on the top, because I wanted to kind of have a little play. Obviously it's not perfectly 12 by 16. I wanted to be able to drop in there, skimmy it around, a 1/4 or 1/2 inch each, whatever, and then lock it in place. So start cutting. And that almost didn't want to let go. Let me turn this off. It was, you can see it kind of cut at a little crappy angle. So, but anyways, popped out, hole's clean. It's pretty dang thick, this flooring. So, moment of truth. Boom. All right, I think it's going to be a lot nicer. So. Is it? Yeah, it's not a huge storage area. It's only about 12 inches deep versus this, 2 foot deep one. But, it's perfect battery hatch or anchor lock or whatever. So, and start tapering this back and glue this down. All right, so busted out the old calipers, and it's like I made these hatch lids pretty thick. It's good, 0.22 inches, 0.21, now 0.20, 0.20, and take this cutout I just got, jam this down here in the foam, 0.21, 0.18, and you get the idea. So they're very similar in thickness. I made them both with about 4 layers of glass, so makes sense. I think what I'm going to do is, instead of trying to grind the hell out of this and making a huge dusty mess, I'm just going to go around this with the oscillating tool and just cut this out and just kind of see if I can't, chisel this foam away from the, you know, kind of pull it away from the Divinycell, and then just glue, drop that in there, and then when I tab it in, got less of a bump there. So we'll see how that works. Here. Oh yeah, this is gonna work. Let's get a good grip on it. Whew. All right, if anybody questions the shear strength of Divinycell, it literally pulled the glass apart before the foam ripped. So that's some good stuff, but got it off. And this should fit right back down in its spot. Yeah, that'll do, pig. It's sitting in there nice. I mean, almost pretty close to flush right now. So, step, pull this guy out, clean that up, sand all this, get it roughed up because it's, you know, cured and good, acetone it, and then a gallon of bonding putty from Fiberglass Coatings. I will apply and press. All right, so we are using Fiberglass Coatings bonding putty. Let's see, 8. Hang on one second. Turn my noise off. Put a pretty decent amount on there because if it squeezes out, that's okay. I'd rather clean it up than have voids in there. Try not to just throw the catalyst right out the side. Now, as you can see, I'm using the clear catalyst, which for putties and gel coats and putties and resins and things, not always the best because you can't really see how well it's mixed in. But I've been doing this long enough to get a feel for when it's good. And if you're concerned at all, just mix it more. Usually got about 5-10 minutes of this stuff at least. If it's 73 degrees in here, we got plenty of time. So If it's super hot and you get a big ball of this stuff, it will kick fast, so keep an eye on it. All right, probably good. I already sanded this with some 60 grit. Wiped it down with some acetone right there. Basically, just want to make sure that all the real shiny spots are gone. That it's all just a dull, hazy, look and texture. There's always better cutting boards than a piece of plastic that you can use to do this, but I go through a lot of shipments, a lot of boxes, so instead of just throwing them away, cut them up, use them to mix up some putties and don't waste stuff. Okay, go ahead and bring this back in the boat. And same thing here, I sanded all this, peeled off any of the last little loose bits of glass and mess, and acetone that as well. And this isn't perfectly square, so I'd actually put a little arrow so I know what side it's up. But yeah, feel it pressing down on there good. All right, and then I'm gonna go find some bar clamps or weights or something. Press this down nice and tight. All right, let's grab 2x4s and a handful of bricks. And you see with push down, as soon as that brick went on, it started kind of gooping out all along that seam. So it's kind of what we want. And nothing else to do now except for put it to bed for the night. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, just like that, the sun's on the other side of the shop, so we're going to go ahead and pull these bricks, see what we got. All right, that turned out really nice. It is not going anywhere. So got a couple little gaps on the seams there. Need just a little more putty. So I mixed up a little more, and we'll go ahead and spread that on. Final step, a little bit of tabbing glass. I have a roll of 6-inch 1708 tabbing glass. Cut whatever you have, whether it's, a big roll of 1708 or just some scraps. Just make sure you get some some good coverage over those seams. So putty's on. I'm going to do this while it's still wet so that it can all just kind of gel together and, push that putty where it needs to be. If there's any if there's any extra, it'll just smooth out underneath the glass. You don't have to go back and sand it. Wet on wet is fine for this. And some resin, roller. And what I always like to do, is you guys have seen if you've watched any of my other videos, I always turn this glass over, especially with 1708. I wet out the bottom first. Really seems to, help it soak up that resin a lot more. This stuff can, be a little particular on how much resin it wants to suck up, and I don't want dry spots on here. So flip it over, wet it out, flip it back. Oh, one other thing, if you buy these hatches from Russ at Boat Crafters or any of the other companies that are out there, and they're not perfectly glossy and mold quality and smooth, well, this is why. Because you're going to sand them, you're going to glass over them, you're going to fair them in, and they're going to have a lot of damage done to that beautiful mold quality surface that you just paid extra for. So don't worry if they show up and you're like, well, these aren't beautiful like the rest of my boat, because they're not going to stay that way. So anyways, let's get to it. And that's it. Glass is rolled out nice. Rolled the extra resin and bubbles out of it. The putty that was underneath there that was still a little wet, that was able to kind of smooth out nicely in those seams and corners. So the only thing we have now is just to sit back and let it kick, and then we will fair it in. But that's the process as far as installing one of these. So if you do pick one up, they open up a lot of storage. They're very useful things. So didn't want to waste the space, and had it, like I said, sitting on the shelf. So whether you have one or buy one or make one, that's the process to put one in. We'll go and wrap this and finish my coffee, and then if you're not following around the rest of the boat restoration series, the 24-foot Aqua Sport that I'm completely redoing, and I'll link the playlist at the end of this video and go check it out. For the rest of you, especially those that have been here since the beginning, thank you as always for following along. Do appreciate it, like I always say. And we will continue on until this girl is done. So stay tuned, and lots more coming. All right, bye guys.